Hey guys, quick update from the podcast. Our next audio documentary series is going live Monday, August 30th. It's called Slaying Saitiev. It's a story about the biggest upset in wrestling history. We put a ton of time into these audio documentaries. Our last one was The Smiths. Slaying Saitiev is coming August 30th. It would mean the world to us if you checked out all 4 episodes on Monday, August 30th, right here on this platform.
Typically, like international wrestling, takes a lot of grip strength. So, I feel like all wrestling does really, but it seems like the foreigners climb ropes a little bit more. I know Robbie was over there. The Indian team was there training, and I know on his off day he did 50 ropes.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
If I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. This is Ryan Warner, your host. It's Wednesday afternoon, and we have an Olympic recap for you. It feels like a year ago since the Olympics happened, but it was just last week when Team USA, really did a phenomenal job. And the Olympics overall were just amazing to watch. So I wanted to have Bryan Medlin come on the show and share his perspective on the games. Bryan Medlin is the head coach at the Illinois RTC. He's also an assistant coach at the University of Illinois. And Bryan Medlin knows more about international wrestling than just about anyone on the planet, folks. He's also been spending about a month or so in Russia for the past 5 summers, and he has an intimate knowledge of the international game, and it was awesome to hear his thoughts on the games. Fan of the week goes to my man Tony Nelson. That's Tony Nelson 4369 on the gram. Can't remember if I've given you a fan of the week or not, my man, but can't say how much I appreciate all the positive comments on Instagram and just all the love and support. Thank you so much, Tony. And folks, if you're not doing so already, please follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Changed My Life. I take video clips from each of these interviews and put them on Instagram, so check it out at Wrestling Changed My Life. As always, folks, we're brought to you by Spartan Combat. Spartan Combat is now accepting custom team apparel orders for this upcoming season. Get singlets, custom warm-ups, custom shirts, all through SpartanCombat.com. Again, that's SpartanCombat.com. Bryan Medlin, welcome to the podcast, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm a little post-Olympic bluesy right now, but we're coming through. It was such an awesome weekend, or week, I should say.
Yeah. No, I'm glad there's World Team Trials and Junior Worlds coming up, just because it's kind of just makes you sad when you hated getting up at 4 a.m., but now that you're not getting up there with the purpose, it's been kind of heartbreaking, but got some wrestling to look forward to.
Yeah. And did your son watch the Olympics with you? Was he getting up at 4?
He was actually out at a PA camp at the Young Guns training facility. So I think they were all getting up together and watching it. So it's gonna be good.
And the reason I ask is I know your son's a big international wrestling fan, so I always love hearing the stories.
He's a huge fan of Sadakov. He texted Sadakov afterwards and told him congratulations. And Sadakov actually texted him back and told him thank you for believing in me. So it was awesome. I mean, such a good dude.
Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. And for the folks who don't know, I feel like I say that every podcast, but you have had a relationship with the wrestlers, or I guess an academy in Ossetia, and you've been going over there for how many years?
Since 2015, I think. Like we've been going over there regularly since then.
And so you saw Sadakov a few weeks before the Olympics getting ready.
Yeah. No, we got to watch his kind of final prep. It was interesting. It was interesting watching what he was doing and, how he was eating and, just kind of mental state of where he was and, his preparation. It was pretty awesome.
And I know I've asked you this several times on calls throughout the week, so it sounds a little awkward, but can you talk about the rope climbing you saw between Sadakov and Ravi? Because I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I know. And I mean, typically like international wrestling, takes a lot of grip strength. So, I feel like all wrestling does really, but it seems like the foreigners climb ropes a little bit more. I know Sadakov had that video out there where he was kind of climbing ropes with that couple 20-pound medicine balls between his legs. And this rope's, 30 feet or so. But when we were over there, Ravi was over there. The Indian team was there training. And I know on his off day, he did 50 ropes. It was just kind of crazy watching him do it because it looked like he wasn't even exercising. Like it looked so effortless the way his body moved up and down it. It was just kind of crazy. But watching those guys wrestle, I mean, both of them, looking back to their Olympic matches, when they got to legs, they sucked legs in. It wasn't. They had quick finishes. Their finish percentage was a lot higher. So I think there is something to the old rope climbs. But it's just interesting to see different training mentalities, and they don't necessarily get in a weight room, but how strong they are grip wise. I think that rope has a lot to do with it.
And when you're seeing this happen, they're not using legs, if any, right?
No legs. Yeah,
no legs.
They make fun of you if you use your legs. They climb up and down without using their legs. And like I said, they would do, like Ravi did his 50 in sets of like 3 to 5, like right around there. He would do 3 and get down and kind of shake his arms out, walk around, talk, and then just jump right back on. I mean, it was the craziest thing, just watching these guys. And, I know we've got a lot of coaches in America that believe in ropes that really cemented it for me. So
a lot of jump roping too, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, basic stuff. I mean, you don't need a lot of equipment to get strong and have good footwork,
right.
Get simple.
And you have a real eye for the international scene. You watch an insane amount of wrestling. I can't even fathom how much you watch. So I love talking Olympic recap with you because you're obviously watching the Team USA matches, but you were also cueing me into a few matches that you said, hey, these are going to be awesome. So excited to get into it with you. Let's just start with 74 kg. It's always one of the premier weight classes in terms of competitiveness and guys coming in. This weight class was one where everyone was chalking up Dake as a guaranteed gold against Sadakov in the finals. Of course, we didn't know where Dake was going to fall because of the seeds, but a lot of people thought it was down to Sadakov and Dake. What are your thoughts looking at this weight class now, a few days removed?
Yeah, no, I mean, the cool thing, and I really do like the blind draw a little bit, just because it adds such an excitement to the first few rounds. And you looked at the bracket as a whole, and you just, you had Sadakov there at the bottom, just kind of looming by himself, and then you had all those sharks up at the top. It was pretty awesome. Thinking about it, going, getting ready that as that evening approached, ready for those matches. But yeah, no, there was the big dogs, obviously Sadakov, and I would put Chamizo in with that group with Dake. But then there was the guys that just, were flying under the radar, like the Belarusian that had a great tournament. He'd been gaining momentum the past couple months, had really good performances at the Euros. He's a guy who wrestled for Russia in 2017, had beaten a guy that had pushed Burroughs to the limit, a guy named Narikow. So, and just stylistically, you can't really push him out with underhooks. So you kind of figured between him and Dake, that was going to be a really interesting match. So, surprised maybe that it was as short, but to be honest, like, since Dake went underhooks with them so much, I'm not real super surprised at the result.
But this was a guy coming in where you said, if you would have saw him in the bracket, you would have said that's one of Dake's toughest matches. And a lot of Americans probably had no idea who this guy was.
Yeah. I mean, just like I said, I for whatever reason had seen him wrestle quite a bit, starting even, in the early, around 2015 or so. And everybody that wrestles him kind of learns you can't really push him around with underhooks, because he's got 2 or 3 different ways that he kind of counters those, pretty effectively to scores, not just to clear. He just doesn't clear underhooks, but he wrestles really well from overties. The guy like I said, I think the guy he wrestles with he did that slide by to Burroughs a couple times the last time they wrestled. Unfortunately, he did it to Isaiah when I was coaching him. The guy was kind of known for it, and I think they worked together. Like I said, he's got 2 or 3 different things, which is kind of rare from that position. And I know Dake wrestles very well from underhook seatbelt position, so it was going to be interesting. But at the same time, I knew that was going to be a very challenging match for him, because it was taking away one of Dake's best positions, or he was going to have to wrestle this Belarusian where he was really tough. So,
but was the 11-0 shocking to you?
Yeah, that was the part that I guess, I expected Dake maybe after the 4 to just kind of calm down a little bit, but it seemed like he got maybe caught up in the match and tried to erase the 4, a little bit early and got super aggressive. And then now he's down 8. He goes to the edge again, and I think the last one was just kind of a bailout. But his good technique, but at the same time, that guy was kind of tailor made to do that to a guy that was going to try to bully you with underhooks. So I think if Dake wrestles him again, he just stays out of it and does what Sadakov did to him in the finals. Which if you watch him, Sadakov did underhook him, but he underhooked him without pressure. And then the one time he actually did something from the underhook, he went underhook throw by, and he did it right away. And he kind of went to a low ankle position and finished on his legs. And that was a big deal. So I think just living and learning for Dake, it's unfortunate he had to learn it at the highest level, but he'll be back. He'll be around, I think, till the next Olympics. So
that's the best part, is that it's only 3 years away. Paris.
Yeah, that's cool.
Isn't that amazing? And you look at a guy like Dake, mentality wise, he thinks there's no way he can lose. So when you have someone like that, it really, crushes their soul. And I'm sure for the rest of their life anyone who lost this weekend. But to see him come back against first the Cuban, who's really solid, older, but solid. But then Chamizo, he wrestled a really solid match against Chamizo. What did you see there?
Yeah, I really expected Chamizo to be in kind of peak form. Looking at like 2016, it seemed like he peaked for 2016. That was one of the best I felt like he looked. So I really expected him to kind of come in and push the action and just it to be a really good match, a really competitive blow for blow. He does some things that are just kind of unique to him, and Dake controlled him. Dake did a good job of staying kind of tight to his legs when he got to his legs, and just didn't really give him much of a chance to scramble. So it was good. That was one of the better matches I've seen him wrestle. So he wrestled great.
Yeah. And just, a few hours, or probably, 12, 24 hours after that loss. So to come back is just, a sign of a warrior, obviously. What kind of balance does Chamizo have? Dake had him up in that lock he does, low single, comes up, locks it up. Most people, they're on their back in 2 seconds, even someone as elite as Nolf. But Chamizo almost scored a push out on it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. He's like those things that when you're a little kid you had as a punching bag, and like you hit it and it like plops down and pops right back up. It's got like sand at the bottom, but that's what he is, man. He's unique in the fact that, like, just from the edge, he's so dangerous because, you could have his leg in the air and he could turn you. And I've seen him turn people and like kick them in the chest and push them out. So, his balance is unreal, but, he trains really hard, and, he kind of, has a little bit of, he knows how good he is on there. So he has such confidence when you get to his legs that, I think that sometimes he can just bowl you with his confidence. So he wrestled great. So, I mean, it's just one of those Dake's day. So I think that match gets wrestled again. It could absolutely go the other way.
Yeah, that weight is so close like that. And you got to pause and just respect what Cuba's done. In freestyle, some of the guys weren't wrestling for Cuba, like Chamizo, and he didn't place. But at 86 or 90, or at Snyder's weight, there was 2 Cubans who got bronze. The one for Italy, I believe. Are you knowing what I'm talking about here?
Yeah, I think he took 5th. I don't know. I thought maybe he took. Yeah, you know what? I watched the match. It was leading up to Snyder's match, and I had a bunch to do. So I knew I didn't want to miss Snyder's match. So
I think the Italian Cuban did get bronze.
He won at the very he won at the very end. I think he was losing the match and then kind of came back at the end. But they have a system down there, man. It's something super special where the guys that wrestle there, they have this belief in themselves, and looking at the Greco program together with their freestyle program, they're one of the best overall wrestling countries in the world. I mean, and with their population, it's just so rare, to see. I mean, I don't know how many people Havana has in it, but I can't think that it's bigger than Chicago or a place like this. But just to see so many great wrestlers come from the same area, and and they start to branch out and go to defect to Italy, and it's good to have more good wrestlers in the bracket, in my opinion. I like it when our better guys will, like Amin got to wrestle for his country, and I like that stuff, Mitchik, and I think the more the brackets can get better, the better. So I mean, you got the Russian, the Dagestani that wrestled Dake. That's I think it's good that he's in the bracket. It's good for wrestling because you want to see the best people win. In order to do that, all of the best people need to be in the bracket. So
yeah, and I just think we talk about Russia a lot, and rightly so, and mostly Dagestan and Ossetia. But man, let's give some love to Cuba because they're getting it done, and they're like the size of maybe like Tennessee or Ohio. And I know you're a Greco fiend, and on the Greco side, after day one they were looking really good, and they still ended out pretty solid. I mean, it's unbelievable what they can do. What do you attribute it to down there? Are there Soviets coming over and teaching them, or what?
No, I mean, I think it's just the culture. You look at their training facilities. They don't have anything fancy. They don't have, but they have a tradition and a culture that when you're young, you can believe in this system. And I think they grow up believing they're going to be Olympic champs, and that's a powerful belief system. So, and I mean, they've got a lot of knowledge. Their coaches, I think, are great. Their coaches care a lot about their athletes. You could tell, watching them coach from the corner, there's a really special bond there between their athletes and their coaches that, they get excited and their guys wrestle well. So I was excited to watch Salas wrestle. I was glad for him to get his bronze medal. And, like you said, it's good. The more good wrestling we can get, the better.
Yeah, it's exciting. You alluded to some of the Michigan guys. Amin, man, I was just so pumped that he got bronze. The Indian he wrestled for third and fourth, solid, and he got a last second takedown. Michik, I'm still hurting for him. I love watching him wrestle. He did not look like himself. I think we chalk it up to a weight cut, but
I just don't think he's a 57. I mean, I hate to say it. It's not anything. I think Sean, Burmett does a great job up there. And, I think, Beloglazov and all those guys probably had him ready to go physically and mentally and everything else. But just, 57, he looks a little bit, not himself. You see him training up to those times, and you see videos and pictures and everything else, and you see him wrestle, and he just kind of looks like he's lost a step or two. So yeah, I think it has to do with that.
We have to get 135 or 133, whatever the weight is, back in the Olympics, man. Think about John Smith. That was his weight. If John Smith was wrestling right now, he'd have to go 125 or 145. Like, it's a travesty that you go from 125 to 145 in Olympics. Absolute insane.
Yeah. And the guy that it hurts the most is this Azerbaijani Haji Aliyev, who's a natural 60 kilo, wins the world every time he wrestles 60 kilos, but he's been forced in Rio down to 57, which, wasn't ideal for him. And then up to 65 for obviously for Tokyo. But, that guy at 61, no one touches him. I mean, he wrestles lights out and beats all comers. So yeah, no, it's crazy to think what wrestlers were missing out on, the greatness of them, just because they're forced into either a weight class that doesn't work for them, or, into a guy that they can't beat from their own country that's just bigger than them. So yeah, I agree. We need those weight classes back.
And especially, I'm a lightweight guy. Just knowing how big of a jump it is at the lighter weights to go from 57 to 65 is really criminal. And Haji could have been a 2-time Olympic champ this year, and won every world in between if they had that weight, and they had it in 2016, right? He would have, let's say they had it in 2016, he likely would have won, ran through the worlds and won it again this year. But instead he takes a silver at 145. So
yeah,
man, let's hit on that class before we hammer out the Americans. 65 kg, 145 and a half, or 145, correct me there. But that is, I got to think, the deepest weight class in the tournament. One of them, no American there, but in the finals, Otaguru, the hometown or the home country wrestler, gets it done. But his match over Rashidov, to me, was probably what sealed the deal there. I didn't get to watch that one. What happened in that scrap?
Yeah, I mean, it was 3-2. I mean, it was close, competitive match. I mean, they're both very savvy. I think that Ortoguro, it's just kind of his time. I felt like, watching him wrestle I think he won Worlds in 2018, I believe so. Watching him, kind of learn some hard lessons in 2019 that he was gonna come back and this was going to be his Olympics. So, I mean, no offense to Rashidov. Rashidov was wrestling great up to that point. In fact, you could say maybe he had the toughest draw of the tournament. He drew into the Armenian, first round, and took care of him. And a lot of people were saying maybe that Armenian was one of the Olympic favorites. I'm not sure the betting odds or whatever it was, but I know there was a lot of talk. He had done well and won Euros and everything else and I think he won the World Cup, not the World Championships, but the World Cup tournament that they had at the end of 2020 that replaced the World Championships. So, and he was wrestling, at probably his peak, but it was just Ortoguro's time. Like, I felt like that was the case. It was his time to win. Even when Ortoguro got down, Liev scored. I think it was 2-2. Maybe Ortoguro had scored earlier, and then Liev scored to break it into a tie, but have criteria. I just felt like there was 30 seconds left, and there was no doubt Ortoguro was going to score again. So, and that's kind of what happened. So it was great. It was great. I think we're witnessing the beginning of somebody that's going to have a big impact on wrestling, I think.
His shots are so crisp and so lightning quick. It's just a thing of beauty to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's very technical, and it just seems like when he wants to score, he scores. Whether he gets long on a shot a little bit sometimes, and he's able to just quickly pull his legs in and get his hips underneath him in the center of his body and start to get pressure in. But his finish rate is very high when he gets his hands locked, and just he's dynamic and can score from a bunch of different positions. And yeah, he's fun to watch for sure.
Love his style. And I saw his tweet today or on Instagram, something that U.S. hasn't had a medalist at that weight since Bill Zadek won in 2006. To me, that is just a stunning fact, because I think of that as like some of our best wrestlers, that weight class, the Metcalfs, the JOs, the Yannis, the Picos, and not a medalist since 2006.
Yeah. And I think that has to do with just how competitive the weight class is. It isn't the caliber of wrestler we have had, because I feel like we've had a bunch of guys within that time frame that could have medaled. It's just saying how tough that tournament is at 65 kilos. I mean, or 66 or whatever it was, a few years ago. So yeah, no, I think it's pretty interesting, thinking about the guys that have beaten world champs at that level. You got a guy like Jordan Oliver who beat Chamizo. You got a guy like, Brent Metcalf who beat Kurbanaliev. These guys have beaten the best in the world. It's just at the tournament, it's unforgiving how close all these guys are.
And Yanni beating Bajrang as a college sophomore. I mean, geez,
Yeah.
it's like, it's so much fun there. And it's just going to continue. I mean, I just can't wait for the next big world event. I know that's coming up in 2 months for the seniors. I don't know how many of these guys will go, but it sounds like a lot of the wrestlers from the Olympics will be competing at the World Championships in 2 months from now.
Yeah. And I think you said, you know, Yanni's right there with the best in the world. You know, I think he was a little bit young, and just kind of experienced a little bit at the Olympic trials is kind of what Ortega learned at the 2019 Worlds. You know, he needed that Olympic trials, and I think he's going to be special moving on. So I'm excited to watch him compete at the trials, and, you know, hopefully if he makes the World Championships, it'll be tough. It'll be tough there. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. And I know he was at Tokyo. Yanni was his Dake's workout partner. So to see all the drama unfold firsthand in the warm-up area, got to have a major impact on him and his future development. So can't wait to see what's in the future at 65 for the U.S. All right, let's hit on some of these medalists. Thomas Gilman, just utmost respect for just the way he battled all weekend. In the opening round, if we can think back, folks, he had Ogoyev, the Russian, who I thought was one of the locks coming in, and he did end up winning, but it was a hard-fought battle. Did you expect Gilman to put up that kind of a fight against Ogoyev in that first round?
Yeah, no. I mean, looking at it, I think going into the tournament, you couldn't say that there was a bigger favorite than Ogoyev out of all the wrestlers. Like, the guy he just really seemed to be in a class kind of on his own. But there's always these, you know, if the bracket played out this way, kind of like Cal Dake, what we were talking about, if the bracket could play out this way, it's going to be a lot tougher for him. And just seeing that in knowing he kind of cuts a little bit weight, you know, comparatively to the other guys in the weight class, seeing who he had, and, you know, knowing Gilman and the pace that he brings. Gilman doesn't, you know, I don't know how much weight he cuts, but it doesn't seem like he ever is able to, you know, not really have a good gas tank late. So, you know, knowing that was going to be the case, you know, you kind of knew that it was going to be a good match, and, you know, it was awesome. And it was just so close there to pull in the whole probably one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. So it was just, you knew it was going to be good. It was good, you know, but Ogoyev found a way at the end there to win. So it was great.
It was awesome. And just that trip at the end, it's just, I don't even know. I know last time we talked, you had a rhyme and a reason for it, but to me, that's just the definition of getting it done and like just finding a way to win. Because that Merkel position, you know, 15 seconds left, I thought they were going to stalemate it, but they let it ride. And then Gilman kind of looked up and, like you said last time, moved his foot in, and that trip, God, it was just, you couldn't time it any better.
Yeah, no. And I mean, I think there's two things that kind of happened there. One, I think you saw how, like, Ogoyev knew that foot needed to come closer. And that's a product of, like, sparring. You know, that's a product of, like, feeling the position a lot of different times, you know, and play wrestling, and just kind of knowing, hey, look, if I can get him to step a little bit, I can reach my foot out and catch that ankle, you know. And then the other thing, I think, you know, folk style hurts us a little bit in that miracle position, because it's a takedown in folk style. So we're used to clamping there. And once we clamp, you know, our leg's going to be sucked in there, and, you know, a lot of bad things are happening. And I felt like Gilman had the right idea, because he started to kind of slip his knee. He was strong with his side headlock, and he started to kind of slip his knee. And then the second he looked at the clock, it was like he went into full clamp down mode, and he wasn't improving his position at all. And you just saw that left foot of his start to kind of pull in. And then once it got close enough, you know, Ogoyev recognized it and scored right away. So it was unfortunate. And I'm sure, you know, I couldn't imagine I'm sure the bronze medal helped Gilman sleep that night, but, you know, or the next day, I guess. But, you know, I'm sure he's going to think about that look a few times when he peeked at the clock.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, I was really looking forward to his match with the Uzbek. Can't think of his name right now. Young guy, though, really wrestled Ogoyev well too.
And I mean, that's another guy. Ogoyev had to pull it out against him. I thought, you know, and that's a product of that bracket. And a lot of people don't think about it. When you're on the top, you have, like, let's say you're the number 1 seed, you have 7 matches between the next time you wrestle. But if you're on the bottom, you actually only have 3 matches, because you're coming, they roll right into that quarterfinal round, and you just have the 3 quarterfinals above you, and then you're going again. So I think that's one thing, I looked at immediately, and I'm like, oh no, because it could have bumped Gilman out, but fortunately Ugoyev's great and sucked it up, and whatever the Russians did, to help him kind of regain and rehydrate and whatever it was, thank goodness.
Yeah, and then he pulled Gilman in, and then Gilman just lit up the Uzbekistan wrestler. I mean, that really just showed me, gosh, this guy is he's such a professional mentality-wise. He's not going to let anything get in his way, because, like I said, you just said the Uzbek pushed Ugoyev right to the brink, and Gilman teched him. And then same with the Iranian. He really handled him, just took care of business. Yeah,
no, both really quality wrestlers. I thought Gilman's body looked great. He's doing the same knee pull. I think his finish rate was really good. But for the most part, his body looked phenomenal and looked ready to go. So yeah, he had a great tournament.
At David Taylor's weight, really the finals is the main event to focus on there. Yazdani and David Taylor rolled through that bracket. All due respect to everybody else, but we can all see they're a whole level above everybody. I was surprised at how Yazdani shut David down for a lot of the match, and really controlled, I wouldn't say shut him down, but really controlled the pace for a lot of the match.
Yeah, it was different than their previous matches, where there was just kind of guns blazing the whole time. I think Yazdani had a great game plan. I think just in the end, his simplicity and, a good hard double finished it. But, a lot of good stuff happened right before it. But yeah, no, I think for those two, they were the class. I think Nafanov, the Russian, was on Yazdani's side. I thought he wrestled really well against Yazdani, but just maybe not yet in that tier that those two are in. And then obviously Punya and Amin on the other side were both quality, but yeah, you're right, just not really in that upper echelon. Hopefully we see, I'd watch them wrestle 1,000 times. So hopefully they both stick it out to 2028. I hope.
No, man, that would be awesome. 2028. And it's Nafanov, right?
Yeah.
The Russian. I read that he, along with Sadakov, was involved in some kind of like horrible school bombing in 2004. Do you know about this?
Yeah. So it was the Beslan terrorist attacks. So I've actually been to the monument where, they laid all the kids to rest, and the parents and teachers and everything. It's very moving, thinking about what those kids went through on that day. It's just upsetting. So it's a really tragic event. I think there's some things that happen outside the United States that we don't necessarily hear about that are really terrible, that some of these athletes that are getting to the Olympics go through. And, I think that's the cool thing about the Olympics. There's such a varied experience of people that get to share a common emotion. So It's really special to the sport.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to, not that I can't wait because it's a horrible event, but just, those kind of things are interesting to me. So something that we'll be posting about.
Search it. It was the Beslan terrorist attacks. It's a group of people that came in and took over school in essence, and ended very poorly, and just heartbreaking, heart-wrenching to think about. You hear about, I can't remember, I don't want to say the number of kids that were killed, but there was a ton, and just hearing that number, and you don't really think about it till you're standing there and you're looking across this giant graveyard that's all just these children, and you just think, man, this is what 300 plus kids look like that just ended their lives that day, or people and everybody else that didn't get to breathe another breath after this. And it's just heart-wrenching to think about. And the kids that went through it, what kind of gratitude do they live life with? What kind of emotions did Sadakov feel when he won? So I my heart goes out to him.
Yeah, it's a unspeakable tragedy, and both of those guys went through it. which is, if you take a step back from the tragedy, even remarkable that 2 Olympic medalists go to the same elementary school is pretty stunning. That's just how deep this region is for wrestlers. It's amazing.
Yeah. And there's the whole story, I was talking to Sadakov and asked him if it was true, if he walked 5 miles to practice every day. And he said, yeah. So, or not 5 miles. It was 6 kilometers. So it was a little over 3, just one way to practice. And I think about that story all the time when, thinking about his tournament and everything else, all the love and passion you have to have for the sport to walk that far every day and then practice and walk home. So,
and it's cold out there, right?
Yeah, it's definitely got some temperature.
And so, folks, Coach Medlen here speaks Russian now and actually interviewed Sadakov. I don't know if it's posted on Rockfin yet. Is it the interview?
Yeah. So it's on a computer that got broke. So I'm waiting for my laptop to get sent back to me. They're working on it. So hopefully the file got kept, because I did all the subtitles and everything else. So I was going to release it the week of the Olympics. That was my plan. And then my keyboard stopped working and now they have to repair it. So hopefully I'll have it up in the next couple of weeks.
Well, I can't wait to listen to it, because he's just the way he wrestles. And, even though it hurt seeing him beat JB, like the way he did it in the last seconds in 2018 and 2019, unbelievable. So
yeah,
he's a crowd favorite for sure. David Taylor, gets it done against Yazdani. Who doesn't love David Taylor? He's just, one of the faces of USA Wrestling. Up at the next weight class, the great one, Sadulayev, gets it done again. The only 2-time champion freestyle that we had this year. Snyder looked really good the whole tournament. Were you surprised he wasn't hand fighting as much in the first period, or was that just Sadulayev's game plan?
I was, really, to be honest. Like I was a little bit shocked at that. Looking at their 2 matches, in 2017, he was like a bull. And I think it kind of threw Sadulayev off. And I think, really, to be honest, listening to some interviews with the Russian coaches afterwards, I think they were a little bit shocked that the pace wasn't a little bit higher going into that first. But, backing up to the bracket, is the same thing. Like Date kind of was a little bit of a victim of the lopsided bracket, but Sadulayev was a victim of a lopsided bracket. Crazy. He's got Olympic champ first round, wrestles, I think, Salas next round. Like it was like boom, 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 good guy, right for him. And he shut everybody down. So, props to him for having that, having that ability to kind of go match to match to match, from first round to a quarterfinal. That was really tough, and just game plan wise, I felt like they had maybe a little better game plan in that match than, I'm not sure, I'm not in Snyder's corner, so I'm not really sure what the thought process was and what they were looking for. But, he was right there. It's one of those things. Sadulayev is just, he could be, and I'm not putting him in that class but he could be considered one of the greatest of all times by the time he's done. How dominant he's been, won a world championship the year after he won a cadet world championship, won a senior world the year after. That's crazy to me.
Oh my God.
Think about a 17-year-old kid just going up and wrestling Salas, I think, in the world finals and just, dismantling him in under a minute and a half, a guy that's a full grown man, so, and ever since then he's shown nothing but greatness. So I think this is a guy, hopefully he continues to wrestle. I hope they both continue to wrestle. We kind of keep seeing this back and forth from them. I think that's what wrestling needs. Everybody was so excited to watch that match, and everybody had everybody talking. It had news channels that don't usually cover wrestling were talking about it. So it was exciting. The match lived up to the hype. It's just Sadulayev had a great match, and hopefully Snyder goes back and finds something to rebuild from on it. So
yeah, the second period, I thought things were moving a little bit in the Snyder direction, and then just time ran out essentially. There's so much more to it than that, but
he was getting to him a little bit more, and I think a couple things. I think Sadulayev's chest wrap position I've watched a ton of practice matches, and it seems like he's been using that pinch a lot more in the past 2 years than he used it. And not that he didn't use it before, but it seemed like he worked a lot of stuff from underhooks and, seatbelt position, where now it's more of a lot of counter offensive stuff. And just watching him wrestle that pinch and that chest wrap position, kind of maybe caught Snyder a little bit, in that position where he was super comfortable in, and maybe Snyder wasn't as comfortable. So, I think that, and just his ability to shut matches down, what was on par. Like he just really has that ability. When he's obviously in 2017, the match got away from him, but I think Snyder was wrestling a different pace in that match. You watch his hands; they were constantly moving. His pressure was really forward, almost overly aggressive a couple times, but it paid off in the fact that Sajalayev was almost unmanageable. Like he couldn't function at the end of the match. So I think is maybe a complex combination of all of the above. So
yeah, that when Snyder hit that low single and Sajalayev chest wrapped him and held him in the air like that, I'm like, that's one of the most impressive feats of human strength I've ever seen. Like Snyder's 220 squirming, moving, and Sajalayev held him there, and it was just like, it was a bummer because I wanted Snyder to win, obviously, but man, it was just an incredible feat of strength. I don't think people realize how strong you have to be to do that.
His hips are crazy. His hips are crazy strong. So I mean, just the ability to push your hips in there and lift another guy's legs off the mat that are straight out are pretty impressive. And the fact that Snyder didn't go, I mean, that was the other thing that impressed me. He didn't go all the way over, and it was a nice little scramble.
Yeah, it was. And I'm thinking back to what you said earlier. It was the Georgian who Sajalayev wrestled, I think, in the second round. A really tough Georgian who took
Ozikadze, who actually, gave Snyder all he wanted in the Olympic quarters in like 2016. He actually armed through Snyder, or semis or quarters, but Snyder was down 4-0 against him. The guys got like 10 or 11 medals, I think. I don't know. But yeah, that draw was brutal. And he just made it, the way he made that draw look easy was the most impressive thing. It's just, you start with good guy. I mean, not good, great, Olympic champ, and then a world, few-time world medalist, and then Salas, and then Snyder. And he just made it all kind of look kind of ho-hum. So it was impressive.
The guy who I was going crazy about coming into this tournament, Mohammedian, he didn't even get past the first round. Like that's a tough weight,
Yeah. And I mean, that was that top four people. There was Sharifov, Ozikadze, and Mohammedian, and they
that is so ridiculous.
Crazy. That could have been a semifinal in any world championships in the past, 15 years. And just, that was the top four. That was the top quarter at this Olympics. So, and I love seeing it, like you said. And then Ozikadze, kind of took it to him. So it was good.
Yeah. And he's the Iranians teched Bo Nickal, and I think he's even teched Snyder when Snyder was kind of in that transition period. But regardless, Snyder's back. He looked solid, really solid. And, I have no doubt that he'll be going through 2024 and maybe 2028. He's extraordinarily young, and he's the first wrestler since John Smith to medal at 6 consecutive world events, which is just remarkable.
Yeah, his attitude is what impresses me the most. He doesn't get too high or too low. It seems like, watching him lose and watching him win, he does both with such grace. I think he's going to be a mainstay in this program, USA Wrestling, and I think he's going to be around for hopefully till 2028 at least, maybe beyond. Who knows? If we're lucky,
for sure. Lucky to have him. All right, let's get to Gable. I mean, at any point in that finals match, were you doubting if he was going to pull it out? Because I'll admit, I was getting a little nervous.
No, for sure.
Big time.
I think everybody was. I think going in, I was actually talking with some coaches about it, and just you didn't know how good Gable was, like, because you had no basis to compare him to. Like, there were good guys like Mason Paris, and like he had tough match with Gwiz, and then he beat Gwiz pretty good. Like you had these kind of sporadic results, so you couldn't really tell just how great he was, but you had this sense he was great. You know what I mean? Like you had an idea that he was as good as he could possibly be, you know, as he was Olympic champ caliber or whatever. So he makes it through his first round. You know, he did the same move 4 or 5 times in a row, like just snapped and went around him, you know? So it's like, all right, we don't really know, still don't really know. And then he demolishes Akgul in the quarters, and it's like, all right, yep, he's that guy.
Has anyone ever done that to Akgul like that?
No one does that to him. I mean, he's arguably one of the best of the past couple of decades for sure. And just thinking about it still to this day, it's like, man, it's unbelievable that he just was able just to, you know, take him in positions that he was comfortable and chase basic angles and snap down, go behind, fake, you know, just basic wrestling, just kind of tuned him up. So, I mean, going into the finals, I had a lot of confidence. I thought, you know, I was a little bit interested to see how Petrosvili sucked his leg in, because to be honest, like Stevenson, just his hips are so strong. I thought there's no way if he shoots a kind of a long single, he's just going to get buried, which did happen for the most of the match. But then, so like up until the point where Stevenson got taken down kind of late in the second, I was like, man, he's going to win. There's no doubt. And he got taken down. It's like, all right, that's one takedown. But then Petrosvili locked up that gut and started gutting him. And the way he was getting gutted, I was like, oh no, like this, you could have just seen it being almost over if there was enough time, you know, but there was one gut, he kind of leaned, he went back down, and thankfully the ref was like, all right, that's enough. And then brought him up. And it's like, all right. But even then, I think he was down by 3 or, you know, something by 3. Like that. It's like, all right, you know, you did a good job. And he got the first takedown, and then he did the smartest thing that I've seen a young wrestler do. And you know, he's got good coaches, and he's been around wrestling enough that he's heard people say this, that, you know, he's got nothing on top right now for these guys. So hopefully that's something he adds to his game. But as of right now, he doesn't have a gut. He doesn't have anything. So he just put his hands on him, took him down quickly, put his hands on him. Usually that's a little bit of warning. Sometimes I've seen refs just let the parterre go for you know, I think it's stupid, but it's just a commonplace thing. But thankfully that ref had kind of caught him off guard. He blew the whistle, and I'm like, he's going to win. The second he stood up, I'm like, he's going to win. Like, I don't know how this last 7 seconds ago, but you look at Petrosvili was barely moving when he got to his feet. And I was like, oh, and just watching that. And you just knew with when it was going 3-2 and he had that little bit of a head start, and you saw him just barely make it behind. Like that was one of the best matches. Heavyweight's been a treat for us lately, just watching it. But that was an awesome finish to a match. So it was great.
And like, to your point, there's so many moments in it that come to my mind. The first was when they went out of bounds in the first period, and Gable, might have been the second period, but Gable slammed the hell out of him. And I'm like, yeah, holy shit. Like, this guy can launch anybody.
Yeah. And that ref, I mean, honestly, blows the whistle a second later. That's 4. You know, like that's the difference in the match, where it's not even really competitive lately. Late, I think they ended up giving him 1. So, yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, just to do that to a guy that's, like you said, that's arguably right there with Akgul as being one of the best lately. I mean, their matches together, Akgul's and Petrosvili's have been awesome. But, you know, I think that was a sign. You know, hopefully he sticks with wrestling and doesn't jump ship to WWE too soon.
I think it's like, man, 3 more years, finish out college, get a couple NCAA titles, win another $250,000, be done in 2024, man. That's a selfish man talking, but I just got to think, now that he's beaten these guys, I don't think Petrosvili is ever that close again. Maybe. I think who knows? It's tough to say, but
no, I think it is that close.
You do?
I do. I think those guys, I think even Akgul will be close. He never wrestled Iranian. Zari from Iran, who's really tough. So I think, and Zari's really young. Like, I think he's 20 or 21, something like that. So I think those guys will have a good game plan, and seeing him twice will help. But I think he's the class above. So I think he can go on, like you said, and win the Olympics in 2023, or 2024. But the fact is, like, there's a lot of money to be made. Like, I'm not really sure if I would be able to pass off, however many millions of dollars that they're offering them to go. And I don't really know.
Yeah.
I know nothing than what I've heard from people talking about how much that's kind of being flown out there to the World Wrestling or I don't even know what it stands for, what WWE stands for, but man, I don't know if I could turn down $5 million a year, because that's 15 million by 2024.
That's amazing. It's also amazing at how quickly international wrestlers will scout a guy. Like by the time the finals hit for Gable, you saw like the first period, it looked like some adjustments had been made. And just they really were starting to maybe catch on a little bit more than they had in those opening rounds.
Yeah, no one expected him outside the U.S. There's not a single person in the world that thought he was going to win. Like, I mean, it was like
really
unfathomable. No, for sure. Like, you got to remember, he doesn't really done anything outside of the U.S. in a while. Like, he went to like I think in 2017, maybe he was like third in the junior worlds. But just, it wasn't. Like, I think we've got to see him in his development enough, and, going from a guy who's loses to Kassar in the NCAAs to, a guy that's almost seemed untouchable this year to a guy that's, making Nick Gwiazdowski look like a not competitive wrestler. You saw that development if you were inside the US, but, if you're outside the US, you're just not paying attention to that. I'm not saying they didn't respect him. I just don't think anybody expected him to win.
I mean, think about this. Like, Anthony Kassar beat him at the NCAAs. And to think that what would happen to Anthony Kassar if he wrestled Petrus Fuller at Ghoul? It's frightening, I mean, in the sense of the freestyle development. So Gable jumped that quickly, man. God, he's just
hopefully sticks with it, man. We'll see.
Probably not, man. If he doesn't, thank you for that awesome couple of matches, because it was fantastic. Coach, that's the Olympics, man. USA had a chance to win the whole thing. We didn't get it done. We gotta be impressed with that. I'm gonna recap the girls team, or the women's team later this week, but man, they looked really good. The wrestler from Japan who won Sarah Hildebrandt's weight, she might be the best wrestler in the world across the women's division. What was her name?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to say the wrong name, so I'm not.
We'll cut that. We'll cut that.
Don't ask me anything. To be honest, like, cut all the things I talk about with his wrestling.
For sure.
That's it. I just my head can only hold so much knowledge. So
I hear you, man. Well, Coach Medlen, thank you as always, sir. It's great to catch up. I can't wait for the Illinois folk style season to get here, and Luke Luffman competing at the Junior Worlds coming up here this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Thanks for coming on, Coach. Have a good one.
Thanks.
And that's the end of this episode of Wrestling Changed My Life. Thank you to our sponsor, Spartan Combat. And coming Monday, August 30th, we will be releasing our next audio documentary series. It's called Slaying Satiev. It's a story about the biggest upset in wrestling history that took place at the 2000 Olympics. We put a ton of time into these audio docs, so it would mean the world to me if you would check out Slaying Satiev on Monday, August 30th, right here on this platform. Peace!